So this is that main ride that we mentioned in that previous bit of wordage, and this is what I would call roadside management, and this is nice. So instead of having all this lot right up to the edge of the ride, in which case you get a corridor, you get, in an ideal world, you can see that vetch, and there's a sedge here. This looks like Carex nigra, another sedge. That might be yet another species of sedge. This is November, don't forget. But even though it's November, there's just champs here. Couldn't swear to that. Even though it's November, you can see there's a fair amount of diversity here. And in my book, diversity is good. The greater diversity you've got, the better, potentially, habitat resilience you've got. We've got hazel here, we've got dogwood. Here we've got a corridory bit. You see how dark it gets up here? Imagine if the leaves were on. Which again is diversity. But if you expand this into an acre extent, cuts hazel coppice, managed along the edge, which would be a much shorter rotation of hazel coppice, not 7 years, say 2 years or 3 years, or variable length. Let's see how dark this is under here. Yeah, these are conifers. That's a sallow. So your acre area of extent of hazel would stop here, and you'd have another one starting here, going that way. Yes, I hear you cry, that's not a hazel, that's a sallow. And that's a sallow. And that in there is ash. But the more you cut it, you've got a lot of hazel here, the more hazel's going to come back. Cut coppice to get coppice. We've got this rather nice surface right here. This area here you could leave, let it do what it wants to do. And then your acre extent of hazel finish about here. Then you start another one here. So that's like 3 years' work. And keep going all the way up until you get to say 7 hazel coppice cants if you can run it on a 7-year cycle. Eventually. And you'd hit that after 14 or 21 years after your original first cut. Reckoning on your first cant that you cut. So you increase the diversity of the woodland. Whereas if you go laissez-faire management, which the Woodland Trust do a lot of, then you get a large area of woodland which is all the same. Your diversity is reduced. If your diversity is reduced, then the potential for species to actually use a site is reduced as well. Maximum diversity, maximum niches, maximum species diversity. This is an area of looks like it's been cut more recently than some of the others for hazel. So this is derelict hazel coppice, which has again been plantationised, but the plantationisation hasn't really worked. I'd be fascinated to see a management plan for this site. And there's an oak. Isn't that the first one we've seen? And a lot more larch. Which brings another question. Do you take all your larch out at once? If you take all your larch out at once, any of the larches that are within winching distance of this track, for instance, does that mean that you would avoid taking extraction machinery into this woodland, just winch it out to this surface track. If you took out all the larch all at once, would that have an unacceptably high impact on the woodland? But would that, in commensuration, give you enough larch to make up a commercially saleable package so you could defray part of the cost of the work? And would that boost the restoration, inverted commas, of this plantationised site back to native broadleaved? Just something you need to think about? Or would that be too jarring, a change in the management of this site? Don't know. Kind of depends on how well informed users of the site and your members for an organisation like the Woodland Trust, which is a membership organisation, are about what you're doing and what you're trying to do. Anyway, like woodlands, most woodlands, there's a lot of questions that arise when you walk through them, or when I walk through them, about the past of woodland and about its future. And we'll look up there towards that squirrel dray and leave you with that question. So this is derelict hazel coppice, which has been plantationised. If you're going to restore this as hazel coppice for nature conservation objectives, which I'd be very happy to do, how would you do it? What I would do is to divide it into areas of about an acre, and then I'd cut it. And I would cut everything. So it's hazel stall. This is part of that, so that's a big one. So this big hazel stall there, big hazel stall there. That's an ash. That's a conifer, which is starting to come over. That's a field maple, not this one nearest us with the little blobs on it. That's an ash, but the one behind it is field maple, ancient woodland indicator in context. Big hazel stall, big hazel stall, hazel stall, hazel stall, ash, hazel, hazel here, fairly mimsy. And basically the hazel stalls have survived because it's been plantationised with larch. But if you came in here and you cut, and then you cut again, so your restoration cut, and then cut at 7 years, and I would take the ash out as well. In the short term, that's going to be firewood, and potentially some saw logs, for things this size. And then you have your saw logs from your larch. But in the context of the woodland as a whole, you're only cutting 1 acre in the first instance. And if the woodland is, say, 30 acres in extent, I don't know, this is a very long woodland, might be a lot larger. That is, I can't do sums in my head at all, a relatively small percentage. But if you look through here, all these pale trunks are all hazel. The stall spacing is not too bad. If you were to cut and recut again, you would find that these stalls would get bigger, and they get appreciably bigger. So your stall spacing would increase. If you fenced it against deer, and there's abundant signs of deer in this woodland, you would get some natural generation, which would include some hazel. So I would think that after 21 years, by which time I'll be dead and gone, you would have quite nice, quite dense, quite good quality hazel coppice on this site. And if you were to monitor your ground flora, which I think you ought to do at the same time, this is all deer damage on this bramble. And they're eating the bramble, so they're hungry. This is honeysuckle, ancient woodland indicator in context. So if you were to do that, you get good quality hazel coppice, and that, close to this ride, area like Somerset might be saleable. So that would help support the management of your woodland in the future. That would then free up money from your central coffers to buy more woodlands and to manage more woodlands and create the nature conservation benefits that, as a nature conservation organisation, you would want. These are interesting. Dead boxes. Looks like 2 generations of dead boxes. That one's had squirrels in it. So someone at some time has put up some kind of bird box, or maybe even bat box. I would maintain that hazel coppice can be extremely good for nature conservation, not just because it's flora heavy, good quality ground flora, but because you've got things like this. Dormouse is a protected species. It's called the hazel dormouse because it's supposed to like hazel. It kind of does like hazel, but not as much as is commonly thought. It does also very well in blackthorn scrub, but it needs aerial runways. There's a bit of an aerial runway here. There's a bit of an aerial runway up there where you've got bramble on the top. And if you've got what's it called, honeysuckle, as well as bramble, you can get aerial runways, which is ideal for the dormouse. But in woodland like this, your aerial runways are always going to be sparse, and also your foraging potential for your dormice are always going to be sparse. Most of the foraging they're going to be doing is along the edge of this ride, where there's more species diversity because there's younger scrub along the ride edge. But if you've got these 7, say, areas of hazel coppice joined by ride side management, your species diversity and your habitat suitability for your dormice is going to increase, and increase very substantially over what you have here at the moment, and over what you would continue to have if you went for laissez-faire management. Laissez-faire, leave it as it is, let it do its own thing. So that's basically the case for managing this as hazel coppice and keeping these ancient trees, because this is an ancient tree. This is 1, 2, 3 meters at least across, and this is one tree. How old is it? No idea, no way to find out, but it is old.